So I was, when you sign up to teach at these camps, we get to present a few ideas for classes, and everybody gets to vote on them, which is a really cool system. It challenges me as an instructor. I was trying to come up with things to teach and good names for them and all that stuff, and so you guys decided that we were going to learn some guard recoveries, which is awesome. I love that you're into the fundamentals, because so often these days you get caught up in the minutia of all these high-level detailed tricks. So this class is going to be pretty damn simple. We're going to keep it low speed. Like I said, we're going to spend the whole class underneath somebody escaping. So don't burn yourself out. We're not trying to wrestle out of anything or do anything fancy. Just want to cover some basic principles, some concepts, some tricks that I use on a regular basis to recover guard. Okay? So we'll start today on bottom of mount. And I find that this is one of those positions where it's real easy to panic, right? You got somebody that's beat you at a few different places already, right? They passed your guard or took you down or all of the above, and now they've mounted you, and you got a lot to deal with, right? So one of the things that it's easy to forget is that the mount is his control of the hips over my hips, right? So anytime that we get mounted and our defense is anything on the upper half, we're ignoring the actual mount, right? The mount is here. So anything up here that we're doing, if we're trying to get an arm, anything like that, it's a waste of energy in the idea of the hip position, right? If we're in the guard on top, it's the same concept, right? This is all a waste of energy. It's the hips that are going to get us to break the guard open. So from the bottom, one thing we're going to do right off the bat is I'm going to get my elbows to my ribs, right? I don't want to extend my elbows away at any point. They'll get underneath my elbows if I do that, and then I'm in even worse trouble. So as I'm getting mounted, or as he settles in, before he really settles in, my elbows go to my ribs, and I'm going to figure out which side he's leaning on, and if he's not, I pick my favorite, and I'm going to block his hips, right? So I'm not reaching to his hips to push. I'm just keeping my elbows tight, and I'm making sure that his hips can't climb any higher on my chest, right? So a lot of what we're going to do today is about not letting things get worse. That's a big portion of this. We don't want to get ourselves into a worse situation. We're already in Shitsville. We're underneath this guy in mount. So not getting it worse includes making sure his mount doesn't come up high on me, make sure my elbows don't flare, make sure I don't panic and give up my back, right? So very simply, go tall for a sec. I'm making sure that one elbow I always know where this hip is, and my hand always knows where this other hip is. So no matter what I do, I keep that concept, right? Using this, no matter what kind of pressure he puts on me with his head, with his chest, or anything else, I can still control the hip space a little bit, enough to get one ankle. This is the start of my life coming back to me from down here. If I get one ankle, as long as I don't cross that center line, I'll be okay, right? So this, again, stays glued. I have his ankle, and he can do whatever he wants to my upper body at this point. As long as I maintain the bottom half, I'll be able to get my half guard and get to a safer place, okay? So the way we'll drill this first is he'll get his mount, I'll get my elbows in, I'll block the hip, and I'm gonna use my outside leg to lift my hips a little bit and turn, and I'm looking to get my bottom knee underneath his ankle. A couple of ways this can go. If I have his balance, I may just be able to slip it like that. If his foot's really heavy, I may need to come over here and get that foot. Right? As long as I can get that quarter guard, I can start my process. From here, once I have my quarter guard, I'm extending his foot away from me a little bit, and I'm going to lift my knees towards the ceiling. Again, I'm not leaving that hip. Using my hand to push his thigh between my thighs, and I squeeze. So my knees are squeezing together at this point. I keep my head close to his chest. I'm looking for his far hip and his other knee so that I can turn off of my back, get off his center line, and establish that underhook where I'm safe pretty far underneath him. Now typically, what a person is going to do at this point as you start to threaten this back position is they're just going to square up on you. Very easy guard recovery at that point, and we're good to go. So again, remember the concept, the principle of not letting things get worse. Once you establish a little bit of once you establish a little bit of hip defense from the bottom mount, then you can breathe a little bit, honestly. The guy on top's going to be fighting for position, trying to choke you, trying to do whatever he's doing. But as long as you control the hip situation, you got a shot at getting quarter guard or even a half guard, right? So our kind of checkpoints for this drill are hip control, elbows tight and hip control. My first stopping point. Wherever he may go, I want to make sure that my head's close, my elbows are close, things don't get too much worse. Once I've established this for a second, turn that hip, catch the ankle. Again, if his foot's too heavy, just reach over, take that ankle and put it in there. Extend and lift the knee off the mat, push through, underhook, frame the opposite knee, and now we're underneath him. If you know the dog fight or the back take from here, that's kind of what we want to threaten. Right? He's not going to let me go that far. He's going to try to square up on that. Easy guard recovery from there. Using our established half guard to force him to react so that we can recover guard. Simple enough? Let's run through that for a few minutes. We'll come back and we'll tie some other things in. Cool? Let's do it. All right, so now let's kind of pause at checkpoint 2. All right? We got half guard, but that full guard recovery is a little bit distant. Maybe they have good top pressure, maybe they have an underhook, right? And so you're kind of stuck in half guard. That's okay, right? We want to try to do sweeps and we want to try to take the back and do all that stuff, but if we threaten the sweeps, we threaten the back takes, and we don't let things get worse, guard is a great step up from half guard, right? I know I personally have a ton of attacks that I love to do from half guard, and I'll find myself being in half guard voluntarily when I should be recovering full guard, because full guard is more protective than half guard, right? So that's kind of one of the things we're working on here is if you can't get the position you want, you can't get the submission you want, make sure you have guard. Guard's what's going to keep you alive and defended while you work towards that stuff you do want to do, okay? So this time, we got to our deep underhook position, but, he's just heavy, and I'm not going to be able to get underneath, and his knee's tight, right? But I still have my underhook. I still have my half guard. I'm still maintaining down here, not letting things get worse, right? So once I kind of realize that this guy's not going to let me do much from here, he's got his balance, he's got his grips that he wants, whatever, I want to switch to a lockdown half guard, right? So I have kind of an inside triangle. I can kind of lock this down. Yeah, we can turn around. But in order to get him to stop pressuring forward and down, I want to switch to the outside in and just extend his leg. Now from here, I can live down here for quite a while without getting too much damage, okay? Again, we're establishing our protection. We're making sure all our bases are locked down so that nothing gets any worse. And from here, I'm going to take his lapel and hand it off. All right, so now I got a little bit of a lever to work with. So if he gets heavy with that shoulder, I can kind of give myself a little bit of support on the outside, right? And so no matter how heavy he may get, right, he's glued to me. I still have my underhook. His leg is mine. So he can do whatever he wants up here, but I don't let him get space to move and knee cut or any of that. Wherever he wants to move, go ahead and move around a little bit. I just stay underneath and stay tight, right? And I'm going to use the pull here in conjunction with the shoulder extension to either take the back, like we talked about threatening. But again, this is about guard recovery. So as I threaten the back take and he recovers, again, we have our guard recovery. Okay? So we have that same kind of idea. So you got cross face. Right? So I'm underneath, I have my underhook. I realize I'm not going to recover guard. I lock down the other lockdown, and I get control. I keep him glued. We do the same back take attempt. When he squares up on it, recover. Again, I'm pulling his shoulder over to the side. A lot of space for my recovery, and I have posture control on the finish. If he tries to back out, I can attack arms or other things. Okay? So that's if I have the underhook. A lot of times when we're going for this recovery, the guy on top wins that battle. Again, maybe even more important now, get that lockdown. Keep his hips down there. Again, we're going to do the same thing though. I'm going to control the outside all the way to the armpit. When I get this Bravo kind of grip, this lapel grip, I don't want to get a hold of it and then pull over here. You can stay where you are. I don't want to pull my arm way over here and use my tricep to pull on the lapel. I want to give myself a lot of slack and take it out of the armpit, and I'm going to reach as far as I can so that I'm essentially hanging off of John by my elbow, right? So if John goes up, I'm hanging on by my elbow rather than by my arm and my hand, right? So deep grip. And again, we establish just control enough to survive for a little while he tries his thing. And once we feel a bit of timing, a bit of control, a bit of safety, go ahead and say, I'm going to lift that shoulder again. This time, throw the outside hook in, because I have a lot more space to cover now. Extend, other hook. We can finish into a butterfly, extend into a butterfly guard. Okay? So you have an underhook option and the no underhook option. One more time. Let's go underhook first. Got my underhook. Threaten the back take. Recover guard. He has the underhook. Again, lock him down. Extend that knee away from you. Bide your time a little bit. Feel the movement. We're going to extend the shoulder so his head comes across the center line. Throw the outside hook in. My bottom knee comes in on that frame. Butterfly guard, posture control, extend inside frames. Cool? Let's try it out.
Nice. Perfect.
All right, remember this whole thing is kind of one piece at a time, right? I don't need a big, fantastic recovery. I don't need a big sweep. I don't need a submission. I just need to get one piece at a time to recover. Quarter, half, full, whatever it may be. So this time, we're in side control. All right, and John's got his crossface. He's got his underhook. And that's all he wants for now. He wants to make sure that I'm pinned, right? So for me, to try to get some traditional frames, go ahead, stay heavy. Keep your head in there, right? That's a lot of work for me to get inside space. This one's kind of easy, maybe. Maybe he's got a heavy hip on that side and I'm trapped, right? So if he's really, really getting me, this one's the easy one. This one, not so much. I mean, there's wrist locks in there. There's just the fact that I maybe just can't get my arm in because his head is glued and I just can't get any kind of a frame. So what do I do with this thing that's stuck out here in La La Land, right? What I want to do with it is make sure I trap him to me, just like we did from half guard, right? If I don't have a lapel yet, I'm just going to grab a hold of his armpit gi right here, right? That seam that's kind of running through the armpit, and I'm going to lock my elbow to my hip, and I'm going to use that connection to get inside here. Now, for a second. Now the next principle we need to adhere to, and I use that here intentionally, we have to be stuck to the person that's on top of us, so that wherever they go, we go. Does that make sense? We want to give them no space. They may have earned the top position, but they don't control the situation, they don't control the space. So if John tries to lift at this point, go ahead and lift yourself up to like knee on belly. I go too. I lift with him, right? Go again. I lift. Okay? And now I have a little bit of space to block the bottom leg. So as he lifts, I lift too, and I'm going to block that inside space. Go ahead, get heavy again. And now I have a little bit of an underhook on this side, and I still have my control on the other side. So again, now if he tries to lift and go knee on belly, I still have a lot of connection to him. And now at any point, go ahead and do that again. I can get my knee shield in, hook that outside leg, and get my half guard, my lockdown, and start my process again. Right? Now if we already have the lapels out, or if we're stuck down here for a long time, we can use that same principle. From here, if I hold John without this, he can easily lift that arm, extend it, and get that arm bar on this side. This side. Right? So that extended arm is dangerous if I'm just hugging him here. But if I have my lapel and his shoulder locked in, if he tries to straight arm lock me, I stay glued. Okay? So we're on the hip check. We let him lift us once or twice. Then we drop the bottom out. Easy half guard recovery, and we know what to do from that position, right? Now what if the guy on top doesn't want to move? What if he just wants to hold you there? We go back to that same idea from half guard. I'm going to use my good connection to make his head come off that center line. Now the way that I need to do this, if I stay glued to his neck, his head's going to dive this way, and I'm not going to get a lot of power to move on his neck. So keep your head steady. Right? I'm not going to get a lot of power on his neck. But if I flare my elbow to his temple, I can break that center line, give myself a little hole on the inside frame for my knee, little extension. It's going to let me lock down that leg again. And then we know what to do from here. So you have two drills. You have just stay glued, lift up, drop the knot, the bottom out, right? So he's going to lift me. Go ahead and lift. And when I feel that lift, I'm going to drop. My knee fits in. We recover. And then we have, when he's not moving that much, and we have that lapel, flare the elbow to the temple, bring him off the center line, knee comes in, recovery, lockdown of your choosing. Again, maintaining that top control the whole time to not give him the space to float and dance around on top of that position. Okay, we understand the two drills we're doing? Let's try it out. All right, I may regret this, but we're going to have a little fun with this last one. It's something that I do a little bit here and there. It's a little bit risky sometimes. It's a little bit wild and funky, but maybe you'll find some use out of it, okay? So who kind of noticed that out of all that side control, defense, and maintenance, that north-south is probably going to be a problem, right? I found that out, right? I got my side control locked down. I'm safe. Shit. They're way up there now. Okay. So again, we're gonna have fun with this one. It's kind of a funky one, but we'll see how it goes. All right, so,
and it's really uncomfortable for me. So
John loves it.
Yeah.
All right. So we've already kind of been working all these lapels. Right, we got things loose. Right, it's going to require that these are out before you start this, really. And again, we're locking him down, and we're making sure that his knee on belly doesn't happen. And so while I'm checking that knee on belly, he may very well want to go to north-south. And if I allow him to go to north-south and check my hip, I'm going to be in a bad spot. Okay? So as he goes to north-south, I make sure I win that inside space against the hip check. And I'm going to use those lapels that I have to start getting a little space for myself. I'm going to get control, so I have a little bit of shoulder control with the lapels. Turn my hip out. One foot goes in. Now I may be able to recover guard here, right? That's fine, you can do that. But maybe not so far. He's still staying heavy. Got my knee in, got my foot in, but my one leg isn't strong enough. 2 feet in the lapels. Now I'm going to get my shins inside the armpits. Or I'm sorry, inside the shoulders. And I'm going to put my feet on the mat. Now John goes somewhere. Anywhere.
No.
Right? I'm going to keep his shoulder into the mat with my foot. And I said this isn't a guard recovery. This version at least. But I did get out of there, didn't I? Okay? A lot of times when I do this in real time, this point kind of becomes a stalemate. He's going to sit heavy. Right? I'm not going to be able to get him over the top of me. But look at all that space I have to recover. Right? So it's just going to give me another option to kind of elevate that person away from me and get a little recovery going. So the goal here, a little side control, is when he goes north-south, lock the hip check, get you some handles. 1, 2, knees inside the shoulders. If you want to go all the way over the top, go for it. But see what happens here. If you can just recover back to guard from that position, that's cool too. Again, have fun with it. Play around with your partner in some different kind of scenarios. See if you can sweep them. See if you can recover guard. Whatever happens, it's all good. Question? You want to go over the top one more time?
Yeah, come on over.
Sure. Hit those shoulders. I may stay here for a minute. Whatever you want to call it. Have fun with it.
And that towards
We
the
got.
camera.
What's that?
Does that mean that towards the camera?
You need one this way now too?
Yeah, okay.
All right.
You get good footage, all right?
One, two, shins in. Get my own damn north south. Cool? All right, you got about 5 minutes. Have fun. Good turn with those lapels. Awesome. Hey, everybody, thank you so much. That was my last piece of instruction for the camp. Now we'll get to have a lot more fun with y'all because I can stop stressing about teaching in front of so many damn people. No, I'm just kidding. I do get a little stressed out about it, but y'all are fucking awesome. So thank you so much. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the attention, the hard work on the technique, and good thanks to my good friend John Hancock for taking all the abuse. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.